and welcome. My name is James Rice from Mohawk Valley Community College, and today I'm joined by Mike Qaissaunee from Brookdale Community College. Mike, how are you today?
Good, good. Nice to be with you, James. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I'm especially interested, of course, in your topic, innovations in cybersecurity, classroom practices, a spotlight on community colleges, because definitely the innovation part of cybersecurity, specifically with education, was one of the things that definitely attracted me to the field of switching from private sector to academia. But I know that my personal path and experience with a lot of this stuff is not necessarily what everyone else has experienced or what everyone else has kind of come from. So I definitely wanted to start right off the bat with, what does cyber innovation mean to you in the classroom? What is it that you took a look at? What was your research looking at? What does this really mean to you?
Well, what I was looking at was community colleges in general are resource constrained. You have to deal with obstacles from information technology, computers that are locked down. Even you might have students that only have Chromebooks and don't have a full operating system that they can use. And so what I was interested in studying is what are faculty doing to work around these obstacles to be able to teach cybersecurity, which is, again, a rapidly evolving field, be able to teach it with the modern tools that students need, but also in a secure environment and in a secure way that the students are not going to damage their own systems or damage the college's network. And I was amazed to find out, again, that community college faculty in this field are one of the most creative and most innovative faculty that I've seen, just because out of necessity, they've had to do this.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm kind of relating what you're saying definitely to some of the things I would say I did by accident. You kind of notice that at a community college where you have students that don't always have the technology. They don't always have necessarily the same budget or funds. And so I definitely can relate to what you're saying with the Chromebooks. Just how do you make the exercises work? And I find that certainly to be a lot of fun and engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having said that, I've had some mixed results over the years of trying to break a few eggs to see what works with my activities.
Mm-hmm.
What have you discovered has been the impact of this reality of our industry?
Well, I think a lot of the faculty in this field come from an industry background. And I think with that industry background, they're more willing to try things and to fail and to iterate and keep working on it until they find something that works for their students. And I think the students like that sort of approach because when the students start thinking about, well, how can I build my own lab to study and build and do this sort of thing? And so when they see the faculty struggling with those same challenges and then figuring it out, it really it impacts the students positively because they want to aspire to do the same thing. So the really talented students that end up getting good jobs in industry are the ones that really follow that same pathway of just trying things out. If it doesn't work, try it again, go do some research. And again, there's a lot of content out there on how to do things. There's plenty of people that have tried it out. So whether it's, putting Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi and trying to run Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi and passing that out to your students in the classroom and having them, work off a live version of Raspberry Pi on a Raspberry, versus doing it in a virtual environment. Again, that's been impactful, and I think the students get a lot more out of that approach than sort of the traditional lecture, the lecture approach, and then do this lab on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely the whole follow the canned lab activity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's bad. There certainly is a place for that, but there certainly is a lot of, at least what I've noticed, you give the students the responsibility to do something interesting and do something dynamic and do something
Mm-hmm.
that they can make their own, and that they're very attracted to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, in your description there, you mentioned the employer, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's something I'm really curious about is, what do employers think about all of this, of us taking this educational approach?
What I've heard from employers and from everyone I've talked to, they all have advisory committees. So that's again another unique thing about these programs is you have industry advisory committees, and virtually all of those advisory committees are telling the schools and the faculty, I need people who can do something. I need people who can touch a keyboard and do something and have those applied skills that are going to be able to step right into my business and contribute something to my business. So I think that that speaks to what these programs are doing, because they are meeting that employer need and also that employer feedback. Again, we don't work in a bubble where we don't work in an isolated program. We have to really meet that employer need. If we're training still with a version of Novell. We're using Novell NetWare from the 1990s. It's a great course to teach, but it's not really going to be something that employers are looking for. Mm-hmm. And again, I joke with my colleagues in the history department that I would love to teach history because nothing changes in history. But I picked a field where every weekend I'm studying something new, I'm learning something new, I'm updating my curriculum every semester, and it's challenging, but it's also exciting. And I think the students appreciate that, and definitely the employers appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess something I would ask as we're thinking about that employer tie-in is oftentimes that bridge we find between the employers and us in academia is made, let's say, through NIST, through the NICE framework. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've seen making, let's say, be effective at bridging that when we're talking about these innovative experiential style learning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found that virtually all the community college faculty that I've talked with in researching this all have their curriculum mapped in some way to portions of the NIST NICE framework. So that framework, because it's industry validated, because it's kept up to date, it's a really good way, whether you're in a metropolitan area or whether you're in a rural area, to make sure that you have sort of a guiding principle of what my curriculum is going to do. And I think, most of them bring that into their advisory committees and even go over it, do sort of a DACM or a skills analysis, go through that and say which of these items, these KSAs from the NICE framework would be applicable to you as an employer.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely us here too at MVCC, we've been focusing a lot on the competition element of things. Mm-hmm. But I know sometimes, you get focused and it's like, I'm not necessarily aware of what everyone else across the country is doing. So this definitely sounds like a topic where come fall, I'd love to hear what everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. and obviously hear more about the other things that you experienced by going through your process here over the last few months. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The competitions are, again, coming from a university, in my prior life, competitions were not something that we ever talked about. And some of the university faculty I talked to, they sort of dismissed the idea of competitions and gamification. And I've learned at the community college and in these types of programs, competitions and capture the flags, hackathons are one of the greatest ways to, number one, engage students, but also they learn on their own. They are so enthralled. We had a competition on our campus. We had a box lunch for students and told them to take a break and get their lunch. They were having such a good time, they didn't want to take a break. And again, can you tell me like any other area where like students are doing work and you tell them you have a lunch for them and they can take a break where they're going to say, no, I want to keep working, I don't want to take my break. So I think that cybersecurity faculty have tapped into the value of those competitions. And I think, it's every student I talk to has told me how much more they learn through a competition than they learn in the classroom. Because again, it forces them to explore new areas, to expand their abilities in ways that they don't get challenged in a regular classroom.
Mm-hmm. And that's always interesting as even as I've been focusing a lot on the competitions, I still, every single time I talk to someone from some other college, I learn about another one, right? I learn about some other competition and perhaps how I might use the word versus how someone else uses the word. We're talking about slightly different things, but that's even still great to see. Like, how did I come to some conclusion as to how to best execute this versus someone else and the resources they had. It's like, great, we have two different solutions, all kind of trying to be creative and solve a problem. And I think the real winners here, of course, are going to be the industry and the students themselves. So I guess that's perhaps what we should look forward to at the actual summit is what does everyone else have to share, and obviously what you have in terms of all your research you'll be able to share with everyone. And I'm definitely looking forward to this one. So
yeah, I hope to be able to share more details about some of the specific innovations. If they've collected some data and have some outcomes that they can share, I hope to be able to share that. And I would love for participants to be able to show up and share some of the innovations that they have, because it's just a rich community of faculty that are innovating in all sorts of ways, and again, it'd be wonderful to identify these pockets of innovation and give them more sunlight.
And that not to toot our own horn too much here, but it does seem like specifically in cybersecurity, all the faculty that I've met, that they're actually quite willing to share the things that they've done and the things that they've learned. Maybe it is a community college dynamic versus some other, but I've definitely that's been very, very enjoyable to kind of experience that as the culture here in our industry. So I look forward to a lot more of that here in the fall for sure.
I do too. All right.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for giving us this little preview, and obviously there's a lot more to come, and we're all going to look forward to what you have to offer.
Great. Thank you, James.
All right. Thanks, Mike.